call this March 24th, 2026 Essex County Board of Supervisors Budget Work Session to order. April, you do a roll call, please.
Chairman Akers.
Present.
Vice Chairman Gill.
Present.
Supervisor Hale.
Present.
Supervisor Henry.
Here.
Supervisor Magruder.
Present.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Excellent. All right, first up, we have the proposed resolution 26-005, which is the correct collective bargaining legislation. April, do you want to do a brief overview of that for us?
Sure. The proposed resolution in front of you is the opposing the mandatory collective bargaining legislation that's going before the House. Your legal counsel has reviewed it and recommends you to take action upon this document tonight. It'll go before Governor Spanberger on April the 13th.
Board members, any questions on that?
Yeah, I'm assuming this is the same resolution that VACO is circulating around.
With some minor red line edits to it, just for local legalese that your firm
Sure. Understand.
prefers, but the context is the same.
Okay, and VACO, just as a point of information, is strongly recommending that all localities adopt this resolution before the governor had, so it can be here in time for the governor before she decides how she wants to act on the bill.
That's right. So regardless of the outcome of the vote tonight, if you take action, we'll provide that to the governor's office in the General Assembly.
If there's no other questions or comments, we get a motion to approve the resolution as written.
I move to approve resolution 26-005 as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Next, audit update. Neil?
I spoke to UHY today. They are running the annual audit through their quality check process as one last moment of making sure everything is correct. And then hopefully we will have it on Friday, at the very latest Tuesday. They have also sent over to me what their findings are so that we can write the management responses to let everyone know what's being put in place to correct those findings. So,
Board, it's a long document, 199 pages. I didn't study the whole thing because we just got it. I did go to the back, which had all the findings on it, and that's what I would encourage everybody to look at first. There's a couple things for the county that I think we've addressed. There's a couple for social services, and there was ones for the schools as well that will require those responses and for us to keep an eye on moving forward. A lot of it was record keeping, not having proper documentation, things like that was really called out. There's some other details in there. But it's I think it's like the last 9 pages of that document has most of those in it.
So do we have this document?
I sent it to you in April.
Oh, I didn't pay attention to it. I would have sent it out to the rest of the board. I didn't pay attention when I was looking at it.
Okay.
But we can send out a copy to everybody. And then
Yeah.
once we get the final results, like I said, a couple of numbers might change. The findings aren't gonna change, which is why I started looking at that. Maybe some of the numbers change when they're doing their final scrubbing of it. Just to give you some of the findings, duplicate entries, missing employee contracts, unsupported payroll adjustments, commingling of child welfare trust funds, annual school report not reconciled, late submission of annual school report, late submission of audited financial statements, social service non-disclosure agreements, conflict of interest disclosures, the VNAV contribution reconciliations, and noncompliance with Virginia Public Procurement Act, unsupported procurement documentation, and I think that was, and then it goes to a review of prior audit findings of some of these things as well. So, again, we've got the draft, kind of need to wait on the final before we can submit over our management reports, right? But we'll get this out. If we'll send that out to the
Yes.
rest of the board, the full report.
I'll send that this evening.
Is there a general meeting with our audit firm to go over these with our departments, just so that we make improvements? Again, not trying to ding anybody or anything. I mean, mistakes are made, we're human and all that. You know, a duplicate, it happens. I mean, that's just normal. But is there some kind of review that goes on with the departments and school and social services, everybody included, to go over and how we're gonna correct these?
Yeah, historically, we've had the audit firm come and present their final audit, and then the report gets distributed out. I don't know that there has been, historically, we haven't really had this many findings historically, which was one of the issues that we had.
Exactly, my point.
So now I think with these being in there, it probably does make sense that we need to at least, you kind of have that wrap up, so we can have a clear idea of how these things are being addressed too, so.
So what we have right now is a draft report.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Just so that those items can be addressed, put a timeline to it, and then check back, yes, check that off, and done, so that next year's audit goes smoother, less issues. There are always gonna be issues, I know that. It's, nobody's perfect, I get that, but.
Yeah, the one we caught originally and took care of that right away, that was was it the ARPA? It was just
Yeah.
it wasn't anything significant, it was misentered by, I think, ClearPoint. And it got
Nice.
counted twice, I think, is kind of, and the
Okay.
explanations in some of those.
Yes.
And so they just, say, have another review process, so it gets reviewed, so.
Just the amount of stuff we learned last month that our Commissioner of Revenue has to go through, our Treasurer's Office has to go, it blew my mind. So, I understand things like that, but,
And Mary.
and
the
Mary
amount
as
of work
well.
that she
I mean,
does.
It's just unbelievable what these folks do, so it shouldn't be a criticism of them whatsoever, but, take it as constructive criticism. How can we do better and move on? That's what I'm looking at.
Some of it will result in, depending on the final report, they're not specifically like findings. Some are recommendations. Can you tighten up a process? Or
Right.
if it is something more significant, then you may want to review and amend your financial policies
Exactly.
document, which would come to the board, and then, of course, it'd be disseminated to the departments to implement.
Yeah, what
Exactly.
they said in the report was these findings, while not
Material?
Not material or
materially
significant.
Primarily because they couldn't validate the information because they didn't have the paperwork. That was the biggest one, so they couldn't claim whether it was or wasn't because there was no paperwork to reconcile.
And-
So you got some of those that were in there that you just don't know.
I would also say when you change audit firms.
Yeah.
That transition year from one audit firm to another,
It's gonna pick up a lot more.
you could expect some of these
Oh, yeah.
things come up.
Good point.
So we'll get this out to the board, and then we can bring up, when's our next meeting that we have?
In April 12th, 13th.
Did they indicate when they would have that, Nina?
They said hopefully
Friday.
no later than the 31st. They'll have the final, and that once we let them know which meeting you would like them to come to, they'll come present it.
Probably say 13th. I mean, if we're gonna have it, let's go ahead and do that then.
14th,
14th, excuse me. I knew it was wrong as soon as I said it.
very appropriate the day before tax day, too.
Isn't it?
Absolutely.
I can let them know that tomorrow.
Yeah,
So,
do-
once you guys get this, if you get the findings, have questions, maybe we go ahead and draft them and just send them back, maybe send them back either to
Okay.
Nita or
To
April.
Nita.
That way we have it kind of combined and they can address them when they come to the meeting. It's a lot of information in that document that's gonna be
Oh, I'm sure.
a little overwhelming to start with when you first look at it, all the different accounts and everything. All right, any other questions for Nita regarding the audit? All right, thank you, Nita. So we'll move into department budget review.
Okay. It'll come up on the screen in a second. Okay.
Which book are we in?
The one that's on our.
The new one?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah. The one that's not the outside agencies.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so the first section is the recommended budget summary. This shows current fiscal year appropriated budget, and then the proposed fiscal year 27, which is a summary made up of all these additional tabs and information that's follows it in your book. General fund, general fund accounts, it's 996,768 more in the revenues. I'm sorry, less in the revenues, primarily because we have not elected if we're gonna be transferring from the reserve or not. So that's the major difference there. You can see each of the individual lines. It's not a huge variation in many of them.
So what I asked you to do as she was preparing this and met with her in April is that we don't allocate reserves yet until we see the overall numbers, see where we're at. Then we can go back, like what we would generally do is request that anything that does fit into CIP, that would be used from our reserves to lessen that amount. For example, I think we've got the, do we have the joint vehicle maintenance facility in there?
Yes,
But
it's
I
in
don't think-
CIP.
We're not, are we showing the revenue for that from reserves yet?
No.
So that's why you're gonna see these big numbers, like 3-4 million. It's because we have all that, and then we have to decide how much from reserves we wanna put in. We also, as you start going through this document, you'll notice there's multiple columns. One's gonna be proposed, and I think one's recommended. The
Yes, and the
proposed-
individual.
The proposed, which is what the departments or agencies have put in. The recommended is what we as the county are recommending right now. So that didn't include, so for example, if the constitutional officers were looking at a 2%, that would be included, but it'd only be for those things that were being reimbursed by the comp board. So if somebody put in a 2%, let's say the sheriff's office put in 2%, it was for all the employees, it would only be the 2% that was qualified under the comp board that's under the recommended line item. Doesn't mean we can't do one or the other, it's just what we're required to do or what makes sense to do because it's being reimbursed. That's what's in that recommended budget.
And that's based on previous board directive and
Yeah, we've done that in the past. Sorry, Nita.
No, that's okay. You direct me how you'd like to proceed. Next, we have the listing of the other funds. And again, this is a review from our previous revenue session when we went through those revenues. We've tweaked a little bit here and there as we've gotten more information from the commissioner and as we've gathered more information from other agencies. So it's showing roughly a $1.5 million difference between fiscal '26 and fiscal '27. And then the second half down below is the expenditure estimates, and that's by department. So you see what has been appropriated in FY '26 versus what's being requested, or recommended rather, for FY '27. A couple of the larger ones are where centralized services wasn't originally part of it. That's a big amount. And then the the building has merged with zoning. So we're gonna put those two departments together just because they make sense to go together rather than have them split out. So you see a difference there. Those are the big gaps.
I need a quick question, and this may be something that Kyle might be better to answer, but the difference in the budget for the ambulance and rescue service?
So if we go over to that tab, which is, sorry. Oh. I have very loud notes. I'm sorry, I don't know everybody's department number by heart yet. 22300.
Sorry, I've been on the board 10 years and I still don't know. Don't worry about it.
So it should be page
Some
3
has-
of 5 in section 2.
So that was, that number's reflective of 18 full-time staff, and then taking the assistant chief from a full-time to 2 part-time positions, and that's 17 staff at 350 hours per year.
Okay.
I'm sorry we're jumping around, but if you go back to the revenues.
Yes, sir.
Fund 150, the body grant revenue, for fiscal year '27 at 7.36. It's on the first page.
Yes.
Dramatic increase from the previous year. Is that confirmed we're going to get that amount of money?
I worked with Carlos on looking at where we are, and that will be to close everything out in fiscal year '27. So it's the 1.7 of county money and the 5 million roughly from state, DH.
Okay, that's all I didn't know.
And confirming that will be finished up in '27. That'll be off the line.
That
Next year.
that is what I am told.
hear you.
It'll probably be the winter after the crops and everything are done, and then they can get through, as Carlos, I think, said at the last meeting, they'll be able to wrap that up.
Okay.
And the fund, the 205 education, you'll notice that at 12,570. The reason that's in there that way, that's what we're required by the state that we have to pay. That doesn't include the optional programs, which we'll need to discuss to understand how much revenue we're getting from that. And part of what we talked about in our Budget Finance Committee was that we need some assurances that we're gonna meet those requirements, so we're not budgeting for it, allocating our money, and then the county having to double dip because the state didn't reimburse. So we need to look at those programs and understand whether we're meeting those or not meeting them. Because if we're not meeting them, we're not getting funded by the state, we're just putting out county money for it and not getting the reimbursement. So that's why that's just showing that minimum number, so it's gonna be, it will be somewhere between the 12.5 and the 17 and some change. But the 12.5 is 100%, that's what we have to do. And then the optional programs will come based on that. Any other questions on revenues? And it's hard to see revenues going down.
And Penny and Kristen, they would rather be conservative, so, hopefully they'll be a little bit higher than that, but
The general property tax was a slight decrease. Why is that?
that was a slight decrease because the elderly and veteran, that, from our last meeting, it was because that was not included.
Do you know
there.
what that total amount was, Kristen, for elderly? Do you, any rough ideas? Is it 100,000, is it 200,000?
We're $224,000 under last year.
Okay. I'm not holding you to a specific number.
138 is coming to my head, I think, so many numbers.
I'm just trying to understand the impact of what this 224 is and what that plays in.
So that's the biggest impact of it.
Yeah.
And the miscellaneous revenue has definitely got to be interest going down,
Yeah.
so. And we can't control that, so.
Yes.
But I know the Treasury
You've had your
Department
own.
gets the maximum out.
That she does, that she does.
But with all these, those programs like the elderly and disabled, those are programs that we as a board have control over as to what we offer, the parameters around those programs. So that's why we need to understand those numbers to see the impacts that they make. All right, go ahead, Deanna.
All right, so those were the revenues. The expenditure estimates, those are driven by the departments that follow the rest of the way in your book. I think we touched on a couple of those. And then there's the transfers that make up as we move the money in and out to the different funds that are listed below for the expenditure estimates. The social services, the VATI, education, textbooks, capital projects.
So right now, we're anticipating a $1 million reduction in revenues and a $3.2 million increase in expenditures. So
You get
total-
right to the bottom line there, Julie.
So 4.8 million is what we need to come up with.
A 4.8 million shortfall.
Right. Do you want to quickly just kind of go through the departmental things? or-
Sure. So you've got a summary sheet, and I know that's really hard for the folks to see in the back. For this upcoming fiscal year, Many of the departments were conservative and did not ask for a lot. Like I said, the ones that you'll see that are a large difference, mainly the small differences, the Board of Supervisors, there was some changes to the health insurance elections, the centralized services, that was budgeted at a minimum, I believe, since it was a partial year, and this reflects a full year at the full staffing level that we have. Let's see, what's the next one? The treasurer's office, I can go over to that one. I believe the treasurer's office did not have the exact salaries that were previously appropriated. There were several departments that way, that once I started loading in personnel information, there was some VRS discrepancies, and some salary differences from where people had changed positions. So that looks like an increase, but isn't necessarily an increase from where we are at this moment. The clerk of the court, for circuit court, that was for the difference in what they received from the comp board. That was not all accounted for previously, so that was kind of a correction there. Court security is based more upon, I can go to that particular one, 20500. On the individual tabs, I've listed out what the positions are based upon. That was just the current vacant full-time position, and then the additional for part-time due to the increased number of court days that Sheriff spoke about when he was here, and what he believes and what we feel will probably be appropriate for additional staff for those.
And Nita, just so I'm clear on these individual reports, the increase and decrease is based on your proposed and not the requested, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
On line 35,500 zoning,
Yes,
you've got the current, but there is no proposed fiscal year budget there.
yes,
Because that's
they
getting
are,
moved to building.
yep, they are,
That's the one to go to. I
yes.
got you.
So,
I got
so
you.
building is a whole lot more.
I got you.
Because we have added zoning into that. So you see building on 34,100,
Gotcha.
yeah, is 249,000. So
It's
that's,
actually cheaper to move it that way.
Yeah, I like that.
Save $30,000.
I like that.
How many more line items can we move? in this?
just move around.
Like $4.8 million worth?
Gotcha. You did say that. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Line 32,300, and you may have said this too, ambulance and rescue services
Yes.
down by 117,000.
That was just adjusting for current salaries of what we actually have on staff, as well as you're moving the full-time to some part-time. Yeah. And then it also takes into account the benefits that go with those.
So we have less people now than we had before, and we don't plan to fill those positions? Is that what you're saying?
This accounts for 18 full-time, which is what you have, and I think it was just an inaccuracy in the previous budgeted amount
Oh, okay.
of what the actual salaries were, or it could, and I apologize that I don't know, it could have been because it was different staff at different salaries.
Okay.
I believe you had a change too from professional services for Tommy Hicks for emergency management that then went over to the staffing and emergency management staff.
And that will be closing out too, correct?
That's right.
So that's. a
Actually,
piece-
that has closed out.
So
That has
that's been
closed out
closed out that we won't
this
get for
year.
next year. All the work that Tommy Hicks was doing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I've tried to base everything upon current staffing of whose salary is on the payroll right now.
In the past, and I might be asking for too much, but when there are significant changes in these line items, over on the far right-hand side is a comment column that tells why the increase or the decrease is so large. Little minor things are not explanatory. Is that possible to be done?
I've tried to do that for, at least from the knowledge that I gained while I was doing this, on the individual,
Is that in the book
in the
here somewhere?
individual departments.
Okay, yeah, okay, I see it, okay.
I've
I
tried to
was-
put comments-
Just not on this document here.
Correct.
Okay,
I wanted to try to make it all fit on a page that you could
Very good.
actually read in a binder.
thank you. see that now.
Nita, do you know of what we have in here, and I don't put you on the spot, of the expenditures that we have in, how many would qualify for as capital?
Everything that we have for capital is under capital. So for 301, we don't have any capital listed in the Fund 100 for general fund. It's all included under Fund 301 for the capital expenditures.
I'm gonna try to find that amount.
This is something that the board's asked for the last few years, and we spent significant time to make that change, so it be reflected appropriately.
So I believe it's I put a new copy of the capital in section 3 of your
Yeah,
binder,
it's the
is the
last
capital
page.
plan. Yeah.
So that's about $1.8 million increase just in the capital line items. So now we're down to $3 million. From 4.8.
And in that capital, we moved in, uniforms, we moved in computer replacement schedules, all those things that we could consider a capital expense rather than a departmental expense.
Yep.
And this doesn't include any potential grants that might be
No, not
Viable.
unless we know that we already have the
Correct.
grant.
Yeah.
Correct.
that's that
So ones that we've
potential.
applied for, ones that we're working towards, particularly ones like with the joint maintenance facility that we're hopeful
Right.
for, it does not include any of that.
So yeah, pretty conservative, I mean, as far as approach to building the budget.
What's your worst case? So,
Right.
and of course, if you had a grant approved, that money wouldn't stay in to supplement, it would be removed from that budget line item.
Correct.
As we move down the list from the building and zoning, refuse, of course, was VIPSA, and we couldn't do anything about that one. General properties, that was an increase, just because of the many things that fall under that now.
So with VIPSA, have we looked at sourcing or using anybody else beside VIPSA?
No, we have not.
Because that cost is just getting really out of control. I mean, pretty fast. It might not be any better.
We've had
But I-
some tertiary discussions, but we've not had any real movement to
That's sort of like
explore
to-
that.
Like to see a
Mhm.
comparison to see,
Sure.
at least keep them on the toes.
A lot of that increase is due to the fact that just salary for employees
Yeah.
and then benefits. It
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
is, like Anita had said, that 8% just for our health insurance going up. It's going up for everybody.
And we were very fortunate. There were people or entities that were up to 24%
That's right.
increase.
It's hard to be thankful for an increase, though.
It is.
Sorry, Anita. But I appreciate
But
the
it's a
comment.
small increase.
I
I
appreciate
think
the comment.
I was told today that the minimum
Small in
increase
comparison.
was 7.5%. So we were only 0.5% higher than the minimum. So
Hot
we're
dog.
doing really well for our healthy, wonderful employees.
I think so too.
So the next, on general properties, I had included the current salaries of those that are under general properties now. And then we consolidated a couple of line items, and then we have moved into general properties the cost of fuel for all the departments. That way, it's just consolidated in one place. General properties can process those, keep an eye on the costs, and make sure that everything's going to the appropriate place. So those were reduced from other budgets and then moved into this department. Let's see what else. Communications, that one went up as well.
Reason behind that?
I'm going there.
The RSAF Resiliency and Wellness Grant.
Yes. So that is also reflected over on the revenue side because I'm told that it is secured. So that's why it looks like such a large increase, but other than that, it was actually a decrease in moving some of the capital costs out and everything else was pretty level. Click through the tabs so I don't have to go back and forth. Technology, that was an increase just due to some of the providers that has all the software licenses and annual contracts. Those tend to go up every year. It also includes cost for moving the payroll services from Paychex to Edmunds, since utilize that software that we already have. But they'll have to convert that data and get it brought up to date. And then just the other printers, those kinds of costs. Health department was the same. Parks and Rec, that was a little bit more, and it was just for the correction of some things that were not previously included, it looks like. A little bit more in some of the benefits that were not estimated appropriately. The assistant director is vacant at the moment, but that is estimated in here, along with potential insurance costs for them, since we don't know who we would hire and what their needs would be.
April, question for the local health department. We just did a recent new MOU with them, right?
We did.
Because I know we provided a lot of services to them, which
We did.
we found out can be reimbursed by the state.
That's
so-
right.
So
So
I think that's one of the reasons they kept that increase so small. So thank you for that.
you're welcome.
You've been digging for a while. You've been digging for a while.
Parks and Rec partners, everybody was level. Essex Little League requested $10,000 more. The library they had requested additional employees, but that's under the request column. And then it was $800 more for Haven's fellowship that she received for travel for that. See lots of looking.
Yeah, somebody will stop you if they have a question.
Okay, all right. I
We'll
just
probably
didn't
go
want to
back
blow
several
by
times.
and
You're fine.
nobody speak up and
You're
say
fine.
anything. Economic development, that one's increased because they had requested the full-time person, so that's got that cost in it. The miscellaneous programs, 82500, that's reflects the amounts that they had requested in their columns, and then what we suggest for their request.
So, these are the things that we're not obligated to fund, where some of the others that we are. Keeping in mind that even some of those others that we're obligated, I don't know that we're obligated to increase for salary increases. And that's a decision that we have as a board to make based on the request. But this list of the miscellaneous are things that we're not obligated to. But this is the one that we said, depending on, once we got our budget straight, we'd go back and look at these and see what funding could be provided based on the funds that we have.
BPI's, no. transfer, and then we get to the funds. Social services, CSA was actually a little bit less. And then social services, Candace presented hers last meeting. Debt service reflects the payments that we're required to make.
So with the transfer out, Nita, I might be jumping ahead a bit. But I'm going through these, and so I see the transfer to school fund is shown both for the request and proposed at 7.9. But shouldn't those numbers change based on the RLM and RLE?
Yes, once we decide what that will be, those numbers will be adjusted.
So based on the revenues, that we have in for the proposed, this number should be quite a bit less.
It should be.
So that 4.8's not quite that,
Not quite that,
Yeah.
no.
it's down somewhere lower than that.
Jumping back for a revenue question, things like the cigarette tax, that's included in the revenue.
Yes,
The revenue collected for Airbnbs is also included
in revenue,
that?
yes.
Okay. And the tax that, the 911 tax and all that we
Yes.
get reimbursed for is also?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have fees for like ordinance violations in here? I'm just curious.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Not town.
Had to ask.
Chairman Akers, have we looked into a speed camera coming up Brace Fork Hill for revenue
Me
generation?
too, right?
Desperate times take desperate measures. Sorry, folks.
But also keep in mind, like on a serious note, Building and Zoning is working on recommendations in consult with the Planning Commission to increase fees and to bridge the gap on some of those services that are being asked for opinions or letters that are generated from building or zoning, so that there can be an administrative fee collected to issue those opinions. You'll see that in the next fiscal year.
And
If-
those
if
costs
you-
are not
If
captured.
you adopt, as it's proposed.
Fund 150 is the Batty grant that shows the 5.6 from DHCD and the 1.7 from the county. We will come back, unless you want to go to it now, we'll come back to the school fund. That's 206 through 208. 240 and 250 are just in there to reflect the donations that we receive and then potentially spend on different services for the animal shelter and for EMS that those donations cover. And then Fund 301 is our capital improvement.
And you'll notice that we have in the CIP now for, under general properties for the animal shelter, so that was another one that got increased that we hadn't had previously. And that's kind of a placeholder for you having to relocate the animal shelter.
Also included in that is the 900,000, just as an earmark for courthouse renovations.
Right.
So those are some very large.
Yeah. You have $1.6 million in just those two. All right, you want to go over the school one, and then we can see where the board would like to take it from there.
So the school Fund 205, under the request is where we show the 17.4 million, which is the calc tool based on an ADM of 1025. And that includes all of the optional programs. So that would be the optional amounts that the county would pledge for participation in those programs. I have those listed below. I kind of show the breakout of the proposed, which is the very minimum of what we're required, which is a total of 12 million. And the makeup of that is broken down in the charts that I have below. The things to consider of the optional programs, this year, I say this year, in FY '25, we did not receive full funding for several of them. Let me grab my book so that I can speak to those. And it was either because the requirements, the minimums were not met, or the ADM was lower than what it was at the time it was budgeted, so therefore, we did not receive the funding to match that. I believe that was, so for the early reading intervention, that was not fully funded because we did not meet all the qualifications. The K-3 class size reduction was also not met because we did not have enough teachers, and the teachers that we did have, not all of them met the licensing requirements. The same thing was true with the VPI. And then the SOL algebra readiness was not met, and that was not met because of the ADM. The VPSA technology grant, that is one that it wasn't met the last couple of years because the local funds have to be spent before the state funds are kicked in, and those were not spent because they were allocated to something else, or I believe this past year they were spent to pay back some of the penalties and interest and those items that occurred. So that was money that was allocated that was not used.
All right, Anita, sorry.
No, hit me with your question.
You
If I
don't
don't
know
know,
the
I
an-
will tell you I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine too. It's heartbreaking to think that, state funds, which we are entitled to, we're not maximizing that. Is there a policy or procedure that is required to be followed?
So-
Or is that something that locally adopted? I mean, I'm trying to understand the system. So I've never known this before, so this is good information.
And Dr. Jones can correct me if I speak out of turn, but my understanding from these is that it depends on the program as to
Correct.
what the requirements are. And in looking into several of them, like the class size reduction and the early reading, it's just, Essex schools gets a lot of young aspiring teachers that have not completed all of their licensure requirements yet. So it's a great training ground for them, but at the same time, if we don't have teachers that have completed those licensure requirements, then we don't meet a lot of the minimums that are required to get full funding for those classes. You can have a paraprofessional in there, you could have a teacher in there, but you're not gonna get the funding if you don't have those with those certificates for those particular programs.
And I think with like the K-3 class size reduction, so it, let's just say you had a teacher leave and you had to combine students in. I mean, if you're one over what you're supposed to be, you don't get the funding.
Correct. And it's not that we didn't get any funding, we just didn't get the full funding. So therefore, we didn't get all of the state's money, but we still put in all of our money.
And that's where we have to be careful, understanding that we're maximizing the match. We don't wanna
Right.
let any money go to the side, but also need to make sure we're meeting the requirements and that we're not.
That's why I'm
paying
trying to get
extra.
an
Yeah.
understanding for that.
Right.
Is that something that's done monthly, quarterly,
I
semi-annually?
believe there are reports, and again, it depends on the program from what I've learned, but many of them, there's a report done in September that gives their baseline of what they've started the school year with. There is another one that's done in December, and then there's a March one.
Okay.
And the March one is usually where they make, a lot of these optional programs, we don't receive any funds from the state until January. They'll start sending those out. In March, when they receive our reports, is when they say, okay, this is what the final amount's gonna be, whether you met the required minimums or not, and how much they're gonna prorate for us.
And it's not one of those things, I believe you told me this correctly, Nita, that we could say, come in later on throughout the year and say,
Correct.
okay, we wanna go into this program now. It's like you either gotta start with it or.
You do. You have to go and opt in at the beginning of every year. In July, you go into the BDOE website and you elect which optional programs you're going to participate in.
Dr. Jones, you have something to add?
Sure, yeah, just to add to the K-3 class size reduction requirements, that's one that you do have to have that information in by December. So the beginning of December or so is when, I think December 15th maybe, is the deadline that you have to have the licensed teachers that Nita talked about, or the classes, have lower numbers. The December deadline is for that one. And so it was a challenge, for us. Like she said, a lot of our teachers are younger and don't quite have their certificates just yet. And so hiring additional teachers, that could have helped a little bit, but that was, a different kind of a challenge for us at the time. And so you're right, it's partial funding is good, but at the same time, it's not full funding, and then it doesn't help you guys when you're matching it. So it is, an area, all of these are areas that we are looking carefully at. moving forward.
So I think, for the schools, what I would recommend, if this board agrees, we know the 12 million that we have to fund. What I would request the schools provide back justification for those optional programs and how they're gonna be met, to give this board the confidence that it should fully fund those programs if they'll be met.
Yeah, we can do that.
That just makes, we don't know. I mean, we're gonna have to rely on the schools to say, this is how we're gonna meet this requirement, and meet these numbers, so we're getting that full money.
Yeah, because we will go after several of them. There are a bunch of them, and we don't do them all.
Right.
But we will go after some of them, so the justification we can provide that.
Well, that's what I say. If you guys have it, then that's something that's tracked. Here's how we're gonna do it. We can track to make sure we're doing it, or,
Sure.
because that might be a mechanism. Let's just say we opt into something and we're not gonna meet it. At that point, this board could make a, budget amendment to reduce that back down. That's a way that our board could handle it if those programs aren't being met and not being matched. So we still have some skin in the game that way.
To help with my confidence level, policy procedures could be included in that as well. Would be helpful to me to know that they've got a policy and procedure that they're going to follow to track, this, that, or the other, or whatever, or I don't know if we do that. I'm not sure where that comes from, but policies and procedures are great things.
Yes.
Okay? So, again, it's not to get anybody in trouble or
No.
whatever, it's just to say, that way it's an easy way to check.
Yes.
know.
In the past couple of months, since January, when Christy Beasley came on with us full-time and has been working with the licensure with a lot of the teachers, I believe she has worked with VDOE as well, and I want to say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 that she has sent off the licensure documents for those. So there was a lot of people who were stuck. They weren't sure where to go next. And
Exactly.
with the flux of everything, until she came in and started going through everybody's files that didn't have a license and going through the VDOE website to see who needed renewals, who needed their licenses. She's made great progress and has a wonderful tracking sheet of who's still out there, what they owe, what they have to do. Every day, I feel like there's somebody that comes in after school to talk to her about what their next step is to move towards their license, so.
So that could be a great policy or procedure to have a tracking sheet.
Yes.
It's very simple like
Yeah.
that, because, if we can move, because the teacher may be stuck and not know what to do, and
Right.
then December comes and they're not licensed, and then.
Correct.
Then the school loses, we lose, everybody loses.
Everybody
and-
loses.
And there's no reason for that.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Perfect. Perfect.
Board members, do you have any other questions for Nita right now? I know we still have to go through and review all this and make some notes and.
This may be a question for Dr. Jones. What's the timeline on the school board approving the budget?
School board will have a draft, our goal is to have a draft budget for our next board meeting, which is on 4/13. And thereafter, we intend to have it available for public review, and the final budget, our goal is I want to say the May 11 is the date that that's what we're shooting for. We are behind, and so we are working feverishly at this time. But that's our goal right now, to have a draft for our board to review at our next meeting, and a final coming the next.
Can you say
regular
right now it's based on a 1025 ADM?
We are going to base it on 1025. We've had some discussions with the finance committee.
Right.
But we are going to.
I just
do
wanted-
it based on 1025.
Confirm if the school board's good with that. Okay.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I apologize, Dr. Jones, I skipped over the budget thing that was, I didn't see it on my other sheet, it was on here, but I didn't see it, so we'll get to that right after this.
Yeah, no
I
worries.
didn't go in order, so that's my
No
fault.
worries, no worries. And our current ABM is 1044 right now.
1044 right now?
And that budget will also be presented in categorically, because we had talked about categorically funding this year, being what happened last year. Is that still the plan?
Yeah, we haven't changed from doing category, that was, we set that up for last year to do categorical funding,
Okay.
and that hasn't been changed by the board yet.
Okay.
So
So it should be presented to us categorically funded.
It's a little, it's interesting how that lays out, because the categories that's called out in statute don't necessarily directly align with the calc tool. So
right.
it's a little massaging to work those pieces in to see where they fall.
It's not a straight line match.
Right.
Right.
Back and forth.
By no fault of ours, that's just the way it's,
Yeah,
Or the
the person that
schools.
wrote the statute didn't look at the
Yeah.
calc tool.
yeah, it's not a
Everybody's
fault
got a
of the
different
schools or
sort.
anybody else, it's just how it's controlled. Board members, anything else for Nita right now?
Thank you for your work on this. I know it's-
Compliments
it's taken a lot
you,
of
your
time.
staff, treasurers, Commissioner of Revenues, everybody who, and Mary over there
Definitely
as well, and anybody else. I don't mean to exclude anybody. This is yeoman work. Appreciate it.
We still got work to do, though,
Yes.
obviously.
But then I'm gonna circle back real quick, so Dr. Jones, you have the school projector.
Yes, sir. Thank you for, okay, here it is. Thank you for allowing me to this opportunity to share with you, and I apologize that you just got our memo, and for the sake of those who are in the room but not able to see it because I didn't get it to you in time, the memo is asking for a CIP appropriation for the projector to be replaced at Essex High School in the auditorium. The existing projector was originally purchased there, and obviously the one that's there now has died. But it was originally placed in that building at the time the school was renovated in 2012, and it had about a 10-year lifespan at that time, and so we got our money's worth plus 4 years in our view on this one. And so it is now time to replace it. We did look at the possibility of getting it repaired, and it would be cost prohibitive to do that. And so we'd be probably pouring a bunch more money into it in another 4 or 5 years, and we don't really think that makes the most sense there. We did get three price quotes before landing on this particular option here. Reputable companies. The other two quotes were at $14,311 and $17,000 respectively. So obviously this is a high-powered piece of equipment we're talking about. But for the one that we are asking for the appropriation for, the amount is $11,437. And this is a quality, we feel confident this is a quality piece of equipment that we would be purchasing. And it so happens that this is from the same company, although it's the same, the name has changed, but it's the same company that we did get the original from back in 2012. And just given the frequency of the school and the community events that are held there, we would very much appreciate the consideration for the appropriation for this particular piece of equipment. You know, it gets a lot of use, and obviously we will, you know, take good care of it when we are able to secure it. And so our board, this was presented to our school board last night, and they did, and we had lots of talks about it prior to that, but last night they did take action and vote on it, and they approved it, and so I bring it to you all tonight for consideration.
Did they have, because the thing that we're missing here is our budget action form that lays out the details and shows the quotes, which is kind of our policy for making any adjustments to the budget.
Yes.
So I don't have that.
So I don't have that with me tonight. I can certainly get that and send it over to you tomorrow. it wasn't something that was prominently on my radar before it was too late. So we can get that to you ASAP.
Does this, Dr. Jones, include installation, or is that just for the projector?
It includes installation, the whole nine.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
everything.
And you need this now, this will be in time for graduation,
Yes,
correct?
sir, and that's one of the reasons why we were kind of rushing a little bit to be sure we got it over here in time for you to consider, because there is a lead time needed. I want to say 5 weeks, whatever it is, it'll give us, whatever that time is, it'll give us about 2 weeks before graduation that it will be installed. Yes, so good timing there.
Board members, any other questions?
I think we need to do it.
We don't have a budget action form to approve right now, so
Yeah.
Yes, so with that said, will I need to bring that back to the meeting, or can I send that, or how should that work?
well, in order for us to approve it, it has to be a majority of the whole body, so it'd have to be at a meeting that we're there. But right now, we don't have any, the problem we have right now is we don't have any GL codes or anything else to approve. We're just talking about a number for projector, and that's gonna be the problem, is we don't, any record's not gonna show the record of that money going from reserves to wherever that line item is in your budget.
Yeah,
That's why we need to have that budget action form. That's what creates the paper trail and the documentation that we're getting dinged on by the auditors. So I'm not one that will be in favor of approving anything if it doesn't have the absolute correct paperwork with it.
Understood.
I don't disagree with the sense of urgency, and if we had to have a special meeting to do it, if that was the feeling of the board, I'm okay with that. But I just want the proper documentation.
Sure.
And this is coming in as a CIP, not something out of the technology budget at the school.
No, we were requesting it for the CIP, from CIP,
CIP.
yes.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that we need to have this equipment in by graduation. So whether it's a conditional approval based on getting the budget action form in, because we don't meet again until April the 14th. That may not be in time.
Yeah, I mean, you could technically do that. You could make a condition on an approved. The only issue that you run into is if for some reason something's not right,
Yeah,
and you've already placed the order and committed to it.
I understand.
Is it possible to do our county administrator reach out to us after the budget action form and all that is available for view and all that to poll
To do
the
a
board?
special meeting or to do an approval conditional on receiving,
No, I was thinking about polling the board or something like that.
you would need an official action because it involves taxpayer funds. I think Vice Chairman
I'm all right-
Gills is
I'm
the-
all right then to come for a special meeting if we.
is
if
the
we've gotta do
closest
That's
that we
fine.
could do
Well,
tonight.
if we approve it conditionally and if something was astray, then we could call a special meeting.
Because the conditional approval would be, they wouldn't receive the money until we have the budget form, because there's no money to transfer to whatever form.
Right.
There wouldn't be an ability to order it without it.
Well,
So it
I
is,
think it
yeah.
defeats the purpose of the conditional approval would
That's
be to give them the green light to go ahead and
Well-
order the projector.
I mean, can it come out of their technology budget and then we approve this at a more appropriate time?
that's up to the board, because I'm sure they'd run into the red on whatever line they would pull it from. So that's to the,
that would
to
be
the
my
board.
concern.
And the problem we have with that, we get in the same situation that we had with the school construction grant funds, is that trying to use things that have already been spent to qualify for I know this is different, this is our funds, not grant funds, but
And just to be clear, this does come under capital improvement?
yeah, it's gonna have, it's already, well, it has over
I believe the
5 years.
purpose was, when we spoke at the budget meeting, was to include it in CIP, because this one was far past its normal use of life. It had exceeded it, and so they could plan to address it again before it had passed its life, the next time it needs to be replaced.
It's a long-time capital asset, so it ought to be
Yeah.
CIP.
So why don't we just, and Dr. Jones, like he said, get her the paperwork, we just do a special, do a special board.
That's the
meeting, get this
appropriate way to do it,
thing.
is just have a special meeting, whenever that needs to
As soon
be.
as he get the paperwork, we do the board meeting and do what we do.
it's just,
And we can do that during the day. We don't have to meet at 7 o'clock at night, right?
It's at the pleasure of the board.
We can meet Friday.
Whenever you reach your quorum to meet
Yeah,
and properly
I
advertise.
won't be
for it.
available on Friday, but if you have a quorum, that's fine.
we've got the VACO
We
training
be,
on Friday.
we in Baker.
Okay.
That's what I worry
just-
about, the scheduling of trying to get 5 people together on a short notice.
Right.
And in the scope of things, it's not a great deal of money. So, again,
What's, if he gets tomorrow, what's Thursday?
tomorrow's Wednesday.
Right, but if he gets it to April tomorrow, what's about Thursday?
Thursday would constitute an emergency meeting, which is what
'cause
qualify
you have
for
to-
it, but you'd have to have a special meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just about providing notice. So whenever we call a special meeting, we have to provide a certain amount of notice.
Right,
How many days is that?
3, I think.
3 days?
3 days.
3 days
I
for a
think it's
special
3, yeah.
meeting.
Okay.
Emergency meeting is same day, but it would impede business. You're not going to be able to continue without calling an
If it
emergency
didn't
meeting.
get approved till next Monday or Tuesday, do you think that would still give you enough time to?
I think if we could do it Monday, I think Tuesday would have to be the hard, and so the challenge for us is, it is spring break. So what I'll do is I'll get the paperwork done and to you by tomorrow or Thursday, whatever works best for you.
Yeah.
And if you all can approve it by Monday or Tuesday, that would be fine. We won't be around, but certainly, some of us will be online.
Yeah. I don't know that there's any additional questions that we would have, just having the right ducks in the row.
Yeah,
I don't have an issue with, replacing a piece of equipment. I just want to make sure all of our stuff's right.
understood,
Oh.
yeah.
So, yeah. On one hand, yeah, I don't mind a conditional approval. I just, now that I've read the findings of the auditors, I am,
Yeah. Well, I understand that. I don't think the audit said anything but conditional approvals, though, did it? So-
no, just want to talk
No.
about not having,
I mean, that is an avenue to go.
not
I'm
having
just
the
saying.
proper stuff, but yeah, but you're right. But even if we do it conditionally, it requires us to get back together to approve.
That's
it.
right, that's right.
So that's why I say, I
But
don't,
I would only offer the conditional approval if time was of the essence to the point that he had to order it tomorrow.
right.
Yeah,
So
we
if we
get-
can
You,
get to next
you
week-
wouldn't need to convene again on a conditional approval, though,
Right.
because a
He said that.
condition would be in the motion that you provide it to county administration, that it meets the requirements of their, to their capital, their line. We would take care of that part, so just to be clear.
I think
It's
if
up
we
to
can get
the
a
board.
majority between now and latest Tuesday, you get the documentation to us tomorrow, we should be able to get a majority of this board. I mean, it takes 3 of us.
That's right.
Do that. I mean, we can,
And one of us can do it by phone too, so.
Right.
Not to meet the quorum,
Right.
3 in person.
yeah.
Right, 3 in person,
Yeah.
but,
3 in person.
Others
one
can
can
call
vote, okay.
And I'm not hearing a disagreement with the need for it,
Right.
so I don't see there really to be any issue. It'd be
It's a
pretty,
timing thing.
Monday, Tuesday.
we're good with that?
All right, we'll just wait to get the paperwork tomorrow.
If you get the
Start there.
paperwork tomorrow, we can do it Monday.
Whatever works for everybody, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
My only bad day's tomorrow, so outside of that,
This is probably more detailed, but who will be responsible for preparing that budget action form?
The schools.
Yeah.
The school will be preparing it to send to you, April. Is that
Well,
correct?
it would come over here, would go over to Miss Mary to check to make sure that you have the appropriate funds available in your reserves, and to sign off on it, then would go to me, and then you would get it to approve.
Okay.
yeah, no different than our other ones that we.
Oh, no, I mean, I understand. It's just, we knew ahead of time that they were meeting, school board was meeting last night, and we knew we were meeting tonight.
Yes.
So it's unfortunate we don't have all the paperwork in place that we can act on. So we've missed that opportunity.
So if we can get that tomorrow, then we can push forward with that.
Okay, very good. Thank you, gentlemen, I appreciate
you.
it. All right, and Ms. Ryan.
All right, so we kind of got through some of that. The only thing we didn't cover yet was the outside agencies request. And that's just a continuation from where we were. again, we still have to scrub our budget, so I don't know how much emphasis we should put on outside agencies until we get our budget scrubbed down.
So is there another outside agency request that
This
we
is a
don't know about?
continuation. Is there a new request? I thought it was just a continuation of.
Okay.
It's
just- okay.
Because what we
continuation.
said was we wanted to get our budget right first, and then we would review the outside agencies
Okay.
and see what funding we have available. But we clearly have some scrubbing that we're gonna need to do on our budget before we can even.
Thank you for that clarification.
So I'll ask what the pleasure of the board is. Do you wanna start going through departments? Do you wanna start with a certain section? What's our deadline, April? What's our budget adoption date? I don't have the calendar in front of me.
We have to advertise for the public hearing, unless you guys veer from the calendar, which is not recommended. Mary, do you know the date to send it out to the 23rd? The 30th.
Of this month?
Notice to the newspaper on 30th.
And is that a 2-week notice? So that's a 2-week notice.
Public hearing is set for April the 14th.
That's right,
That's our next board meeting.
Right.
that's right.
I don't know if we can make that.
You'll make it.
We're a long ways from it.
Because what you have before you is the worst-case scenario. Everything here is up to the guidelines that you set for the goals that you have to use the money for this year. So if there's capital improvement items that need to slide a year or two that have not already been ordered or committed to in a previous year, we can do that. Some people, as we said, requested additional personnel or increases that they're requesting it, but it's not proposed until you can decide, can you meet your obligations? Or they can come back and ask for when it is a real-time need versus a projected need, to help you get there a little faster.
So at this public work session, is the budget, I mean, are we just gathering comments?
You
We
guys
don't
are
have
hashing it out.
Yeah, so we'll still have this, unless we meet again, we'll still have this $4.8 million
That's
deficit.
right.
Unless we wanna roll up our sleeves and start hammering at it tonight.
Yeah, unless, and schedule,
Or
or
one
schedule
vote.
another meeting between now and then as
Right.
well.
I think we may need to do that.
I think so too.
And we knew that with the calendar, that we may have to add additional dates, which we discussed.
That'll give us time to really study this, because,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of hard to do this just tonight, so.
Yeah. we just-
Yeah, because you have to look to see whether, whether there's an appetite to, I can tell you for me, there is no appetite to raise taxes, period. That's, I'm not saying that it can't happen, but that's, certainly don't want to look at it that way, not right now. We're at the kind of brink of a recessionary period. The last thing I want to do is further burden the tax base.
Yeah, and this public hearing on April 14th is for the budget hearing and tax rate.
That's right.
So,
We're gonna have to have something. And it may be a longer type, not just a 7 o'clock meeting. It may be having to start something earlier and having have lunch and dinner, because that might be what it takes.
That's right.
right.
Board members, after Dr. Jones left the lectern, I asked him if he had the quotes available via email, which he did. So we do have a quote for the one that they're asking for budget approval for, that we can send out for you to review. There's not a budget action form, but we do have a quote where we could at least confirm the dollar amount to what they're asking for. So it'd be your reserves to whatever capital line you want to apply it to. So you could either do that conditionally to their capital line, you could do it to the capital line that we reserve for schools, and then we could purchase it and transfer it over.
That's a good idea.
You know, so we'd like to get it done so the kids can
That might be the thing to do.
have their
is-
graduation.
Is we've got the school capital line that we've funded for any kind of surpluses in the past.
That's right.
That might be easier to do it that way, let it be purchased through,
Yeah, we can just take care of it.
through the county, and that would take care of it.
Do we need a budget action form for that? Because if we do, we're in the same boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
You
improve
can
what
give
we
me a
improve.
motion from reserves to the county-held, form, and we can put one together very quickly.
That's what I was thinking. We could
Yeah.
probably do it, while we're talking, we could have one.
Because we have access
Yeah,
to our
well,
own
so that would, that
codes.
wouldn't require, so, because that wouldn't
Yeah.
require, the chairman of the school board, the superintendent and all that, and getting the appropriate signatures and everything. That's something that we can,
That's something Mary and I can take care of.
But they would follow up with,
well,
An
if we did
action.
it this way, if we've got the stuff, it would be part of the capital that we're
will come
holding
out
for
of
the school.
the capital budget
School's
that we're
capital.
holding.
That's right.
Anyway, so
Right.
why not?
I understand.
It's just another option, just to,
It's viable.
It works.
That's
It
great.
works.
and I've
They
just
need
sent you the quote that I received from Dr. Jones.
The sooner we do it, the better off we are, and the better chance we get to make sure it's in and completed before graduation.
Well, you'll need that time to scrub down that $4 million.
Yeah.
So the motion would be to provide $11,000 from the school capital improvement fund that the county holds
What is it,
to
11?
order the projector as quoted.
Motion would be to approve the $11,437 purchase of the projector from the county-held, school capital fund account.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
To avoid any further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
There you
gentlemen.
go. Thank you all. All right. So,
And it's a local company too. Ashland, that's nice.
do we want to, so as far as the budget goes, do we want to go ahead and try to set a secondary meeting and give us some time to look at, and what I would recommend is over the course of the next few days, start making whatever questions, comments, whatever, submitting those to Nita so she has them, if that way they can be answered, so when we do meet. And I probably would recommend, not an all-day meeting, but probably need something that's gonna start earlier, so we're not up into wee hours of the night.
I agree with that too.
Second there.
Any particular, dates work for you all?
Well, we have to have 2 weeks,
Monday.
right?
Not, 3 days for a
3 days.
special call.
We
No,
can
no, no, no. 2 weeks before our 14th meeting, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you gotta have this done before the 1st of April, folks.
Monday.
That leaves Monday or Tuesday next week.
We think we gonna be here Monday anyway, so
Monday it is.
Yeah, we were planning on Monday, so.
why not?
Yeah.
I'm out of town Monday, but I'm available Tuesday, so, but if we gotta do something Monday, we'll figure out something.
Tuesday the 31st.
I'm good with either one.
I can do either one. I can shift things around.
I just need to know for sure, so I can,
Could do Tuesday?
Monday would be better,
Monday be better.
because then if you have bleed over, you have
We
some
just won't
reserve
have a full
time.
board. I'd rather have a full board. to-
Yeah, with a full board, you say Tuesday, you're available, right?
I'm available Tuesday, I'm out of town on Monday,
Mm.
Tuesday's good with me as well.
Put them on there, you
so I gotta take care of Mom on Monday.
go. Zoom call.
You wanna say, starting at 1?
Until, whenever. Till it's done.
Tuesdays, what? Let's see what day that is.
Okay. I'm gonna read this book before I read the audit, just letting you know. Not gonna be able to get both in.
So how does that impact
You don't have
us,
the audit
April, if we do it on Tuesday, because we said we need to get the notice out?
I'm just afraid that if you get to an impasse, you don't have a buffer to come back to hash out anything additional or to, gain additional answers to questions that you may have or input from other departments or agencies.
That's what, kind of hoping that we can have any questions, in the next couple of days, based on what we have.
If you
I mean,
gotta
you
do it
could-
Monday, you gotta do it Monday.
You could do a work session, you could do a
will be out
Friday,
of
you could do
town.
a Saturday, it's a work session.
I'm available this Friday, but nobody else was available Friday, so.
Right.
Yeah, I'm out of town Friday.
We in class.
I'm out of town Saturday through Monday, so.
5, 6
It
o'clock.
has to be Monday, make it Monday. I mean, I'm the only the odd man out, so.
Yeah,
Well, maybe you do Monday and Tuesday, Monday with all your comments and questions to each other, or do some homework and tie it up and
I
get it
might be
done.
able to be online.
If we do it Monday, I would not be able to attend till 4 o'clock.
I think we're gonna need more time.
I have some prior meetings.
Back to Tuesday. You want to do it first thing in the morning?
Hey, we do it in the morning.
I've done,
I'm
you
okay
know,
with
I've
that
just
too.
suggested one, and I'm not wedded to one, 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock, Tuesday I'm available.
Morning would be better to give us time if we had some questions and we could still reach out to.
That's fine.
So, the morning would give us more flexibility.
Pick a time.
8 AM.
I can do it anytime.
8 a.m. Turkey and cheese on
Bring your breakfast sandwich and your coffee. Let's go, 8 o'clock, Tuesday morning. Got it.
Everybody do it at 8 o'clock Tuesday?
You forgot, I'm gonna say, we done ran PT eight breakfast.
Fine with me.
All right, done.
Thank you.
Tuesday, the 31st, 8 a.m., right? Got it.
8 a.m. Tuesday.
Thank you all.
Welcome.
Let me go on my calendar.
You'll be here.
Okay.
Right, board, any other business of the board? Did you have anything else you wanted to take up?
Yes, I do. Chairman, if I may have an item to present to the board supervisors, you may or may not have had the opportunity to review a communication that I sent out to you earlier, about 3 o'clock this afternoon. Superintendent Dr. Jones, with the unanimous support of his school board, expressed a desire to terminate the centralized services agreement that was established back in August 2025 during a period of the school's instability, where the county stepped in to help stabilize operations, kind of like a form of triage until they could get to a place to take over their services back. I worked this afternoon with the county attorney, and I respectfully request that the board grant a motion to authorize the county administrator and the county attorney to engage with the school board and their representatives regarding their request. The engagement would be for the purpose of negotiating the termination of the centralized services agreement with a date certain, but not to exceed past June 30th of 2026. Thank you.
So we discussed this, Ronnie and I had a meeting with the school finance committee. This is something that the school board, and we'll let Dr. Joe speak to as well, but it's a unanimous support of the school board that they'd like to have kind of finances and HR positions back. You know, we took that on as a request from the school board at the time. If the existing school board wants that back, I don't see any reason that we should not honor that request. I question the effectiveness given the short time, but again, I don't wanna be an obstacle in that either.
I noticed in the school board excerpt that April provided us, it did not say a time. Are you thinking July 1 of 26, Dr. Jones?
Yes, sir, we are thinking July, this coming July 1. That would be the hard
Okay.
date that we would like. I mean, ideally, we would begin transitioning
That's
and
right.
begin the hiring process, so that, you know, when we brought people on, there would be some time to really sort of begin, you know, some overlap shadowing, working with our centralized partners, in order to prepare for July 1 start. That would be the goal.
Okay. Thank you.
What April's asking is just permission to work on the agreement. We would still approve that agreement, is that correct?
No,
So-
we approved the termination of it. The details would be worked out by the county administrator and superintendent.
Right, termination and the transition plan.
Right.
We would take care of that.
With the assistance of legal counsel as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
important.
it's contractual,
Right.
so it
Yeah.
has to be.
I haven't seen that email, or if I did, if it was sent earlier and I missed it, I just,
I thought it was sent.
as we've discussed in the past, I'm the one most leery about this, and,
Right.
I don't feel comfortable
Right.
enough yet. I'd like to at least have some input with April and our county attorney on some things that I think might be important in that agreement. Rather than, that's why I asked the question, do we approve or whatever, rather than just,
So it wouldn't be a new agreement, it's the termination of an agreement that neither party would be seeking to renew at the end of the existing termination date, but with an earlier transition period, starting with, let's just say, for example, the HR component.
Right.
well, I'll just cut to the chase and just call it like it is, okay? They came to us in a fiscal crisis.
That's right.
It cost the county $1.5 million to get out of this crisis, and we still don't know if there is much or any more that's coming. That makes me reluctant when I have to say to a taxpayer in this county, hey, we're giving it back. And there's no control, nothing with it. That's my concern, so.
Well, the control is the coordination of how to return the services back with that plan, and then, of course, the funding, the categorical funding of the new budget.
What assurances of policy procedure will I get by handing this back? Again, I'm not objecting to handing it back, but it doesn't look good to my taxpayers to say, boom, here, have it back, because everything's fine, and,
Well, it's not saying everything's fine, it's saying that it's theirs to have back. And they've unanimously we asked you to provide like a stopgap service, and we're ready to take it back on.
Yeah, the new school board feels confident, which is why they voted unanimously,
Right.
that they will be able to manage, the finances for the schools.
Well, not, and not in the state that we are right now, because we don't have staff. And so you're not giving it back to the same people. The entire leadership has changed. And our purpose will be to hire the right folks to do this work. That's where there will be concerted, intentional efforts to take whatever time we need, to ensure that, up to that point, to ensure that we get the right people in those roles, because we do believe as a school division that we should be able to handle our finances. We certainly don't discredit that there were some challenges before. We heard that was, the decision you made at that time, or both boards made at that time, understood, based on what was going on, completely understood. We're not in that same place. And so we are committed to ensuring that we don't return to that place. And it will start with us having control. We've had lots of conversations about it and how we need it to be effective process for our entire school division, all of the human resources, all of the finances, the way that, traditional school divisions work. We believe that we can be successful the way that it should work, but we will, it will require us to have those departments back and to hire the right people. And so that's going to be key for us and paramount.
Sounds good. But where's the policy, where's the procedure that says, here's the transparency? We're gonna have a monthly, we're gonna show this so that the public can look at it and say, yeah, I can see, and they're not gonna run into problems, because this person's checking, this is double checked, this is out there, this is the budget item, and this is what it was spent on. None of the stuff in the past that was like, we just spent this amount and you didn't even know who it was for. Let's
So we
just
will
call it
follow.
like it is, folks, let's
I'm
not
not-
beat around this bush.
And I'm not disagreeing with you, because I
And I know
wasn't
you're
here to
not, and I'm
say-
not focusing my angst
Yeah.
and frustration at you particularly. Let's come up with the policies and procedures. I mean, it's all well and good that they want it back, but do they know what they're asking for?
So-
Do they really know?
We believe we do at this point, and we believe that we'll find the people who will follow the policies that are in place. So there are policies that are in place, and there were some challenges, obviously, and again, I won't speak to them directly because I wasn't here, but there were some problems, obviously, following them the way that they needed to be followed. But that's our commitment moving forward, is that, we have policies for a reason. and we're gonna need to follow them with fidelity in order to ensure that we are successful. If we're gonna take it on, we know what we're getting ourselves into, and so we're committed not to let this return or fail. I mean, we know it's not gonna be perfect day one, but we are absolutely gonna be on top of it, because that's what we're committed to at this point.
And the reason the school board wants it back is, give me a good
we
reason
believe
here,
that
not that,
we-
we just want it back because it's
No,
school money.
I
That's
mean-
not gonna cut it with me, but.
What I will say is that there's a consensus feeling that things have not worked as smoothly as what they were, I guess what we had hoped. And so that, there are some struggles with the centralized services and just how we work. No fault, don't get me wrong, I'm not
Understand
pointing the fingers at anybody. Please don't take that from what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that this is a very unique kind of setup, this centralized services where county government controls HR and finances over a school division. Very unique, and so for the school division to really wrap their minds around how this is supposed to work, for your county government to wrap their minds around how it's supposed to work with school divisions. The human resources, for example, there are so many different, components and nuances to human resources that's not exactly the same. It's not apples and apples, because there's human resources here that it's going to work just smoothly. And please don't get me wrong, I am nothing but complimentary of the human resources folks that are here. I mean, Beasley and Lewis and the whole team, they are great. The work is different. It's not as much the same as what people may think. The work is different, and so I would imagine that if you poll your centralized services partners, they would probably give you similar sentiments that it's a bit of a struggle and a challenge to be as effective as what we really need to be. And so we have those conversations a lot, and we start to really sort of talk to our colleagues and think about what this should look like, talk about the problems of the past, what we need it to be. And we believe that we are in a different place. Again, we understand that was a triage time. We had to do what we had to do. We believe we're in a different place and prepared to do this more effectively, but starting with getting the right people in place who are committed to doing nothing less than that. And again, I place no blame. I mean, your team has done absolute wonders when it comes to doing this, because this is very different, but it has not been as effective and as smooth as what, if we believe it would be if it were under control the way that it was supposed to work.
Part of it wasn't smooth because centralized services and the setup is following the policies that were set by the school that may or may
Yeah,
not have been
very different.
followed when it was in-house. So there's been a lot of that cleanup, but at the time that the request was made from the school board to my office, which I brought to the board, they were lacking key staff themselves. They didn't have a finance director anymore. Their superintendent was separated. They've had changes on their board, and so I do understand the reluctance. It's been a lot of work for the team. I mean, it's not just giving something back, but it was something that wasn't ours to keep in the first place. But we've also been very clear, and I've been supportive of Dr. Jones to have the tools that he needs, but once they take it back, we're not taking it again. So they've been very conscious of, if you're asking for it back and we work together and you get it, that's it.
Yeah, it's on us. And
That's on them from here on out.
and we
And we'll
prepared
work
for that.
together, but we're not gonna do the work anymore.
I understand that part, and your human resources comment's fine, I understand that. But you've got
No.
3 brand-new school board members there. You've got other issues that you're dealing with at the school, and I would think that they would prioritize educating the kids and those priorities, and they're gonna add this on top. I just want a little bit more confidence to what April just
Sure.
said,
Yeah.
that if they had policies and procedures and didn't follow them the last time, what assurances do the taxpayers have that you're gonna follow them this time? You gotta build that for these people, not just me. I'm speaking for the
Yeah, but how
taxpayers
do
in
we
the
build
central
that if we
district.
don't have the people? How do we build that if we don't have the people to build it with?
That's the easy part, the people. The policy, are they gonna follow the policy procedures? Who's gonna be looking after the policies and
Yeah.
procedures to make sure that they're being followed?
Well,
That was the
that's how-
issue that got it in trouble.
I understand.
Let's
So
call it like
maybe,
it
so maybe
is.
there's an approach, as we've been working very well together, or that's my opinion, that
Yeah,
when we're
I
working
agree.
together,
Yeah.
that we could encourage the board and the school board to have more joint work sessions, maybe in answers to some of these findings, recommendations from the audit, to work together and have more open and candid conversations so that they can provide that to
But
you.
in the agreement, this is the stuff that I would like
There
to.
won't be an agreement. It's a termination of an agreement.
Determination, there's gotta be some things in there that says, with this termination, you're gonna do this, this, and this.
It's all part of a transition.
I think the answer,
Agreement.
John, to your question, what's the reassurance? We don't have a choice of what the state says that we're gonna pay based on the ADO. That's money that we have to provide to schools. That's money that's allocated. We can't hold that back. That's required by the state.
Okay.
So, but
Hype-
the
go
problem
ahead.
we ran into is that we didn't have a separate account. So my recommendation is, I'm okay doing that. Create a separate account. That way there is no automatically coming out of our funds if something doesn't go right.
Is this part of the termination agreement? It gives me my insurance, I
Well,
appreciate
then
that.
that could be the motion, is that we agree to do it.
I mean, you could do that whether we had a centralized services or not. That is
Okay.
independent of anything to do with who's processing what at the school or here.
It's just a safeguard us for money's not gonna come out that shouldn't be coming out.
Because if something happens again and the school says, we need $1 million to bail us out because of whatever, and I'm gonna say no, obviously, because, this was the deal that we made, the trust that I'm putting in here, that's being asked for, and then what happens? So,
That's the risk of the school. So I think they're aware of that risk, and that's.
are they? I hope so.
We are. We are. We understand that, we are asking for trust. And we understand that there's a risk, and we understand that, recency bias will inform how you are feeling and thinking. We understand that. So the best that we can do is to share with you where we are and where we are proposing to go and how we are going to make it work. Because in our minds, we believe we're gonna have to make it work. We asked for it, we got no choice but to make it work at this point. That's how we're looking at it. And so for us, it is going to take the right people with the right understanding of how this has to work. And that's gonna be our charge.
And maybe part of the solution to kind of ease into that, we could request that the school financials are presented to us at our meetings as they are, the school board meets before we do. I mean, somebody could come over and present the same financials. If we have any questions, we can ask them and get a better, it'd be more transparent.
And we talked about that in our budget
We did.
committee hearing. If I could say something,
No, please do.
I do appreciate what Supervisor Magruder is saying, and being on the budget subcommittee, and the board members that are going through these line items on the budget, color-coded and all that, it's, as Dr. Jones has said, it hasn't been a bed of roses, despite all the best efforts of the centralized processing team. There's been issues, and we've seen it. If you haven't seen it day to day, but there've been issues there. The school board is an elected body. They're responsible to set the policies for the school system, and the administration under Dr. Jones's leadership is forced to and will lead that effort set by the school board in the day-to-day. I don't think right now there's, with a intermediary like the centralized process and centralized services, I don't think that's functioning the way we had hoped it would function, to give them the full autonomy to make some of these decisions, to make some of their hiring decisions, to hire a finance director, for example. So he would have a budget right now that we don't have a school budget. And that's behind the 8 ball big time, when you compare what other school systems are looking at. And, yeah, we could go one more year with this, but I don't know whether it's not taking the training wheels off. And we can set requirements and the conditions and, provide us the information so we can have transparent information. That's what we were lacking last time. We didn't have transparent information, we didn't have good information. I think we can set that in motion this time with that. And I hear what you're saying, I appreciate what you're saying, but I don't know one more year under this umbrella is going to do the county service or the school system.
I would agree that the desire, we know the desire is there to have this back. If you delay it another year, the desire is still gonna be there. You know, it's,
Again, I'm not arguing about handing it back. That's not my thing. I mean, I have no problem with that, okay? But I'm accountable to my citizens in my district, and I need some assurance. That's what I'm asking for. So if it's okay with the board, we're gonna meet Tuesday. All right, I just need to, let me process this, brought it up tonight, and by Tuesday, can we then make the decision and move on? If you want to do it tonight, that's fine. I'm gonna say no personally, but,
I would totally agree with
I'd like to sit on this till Tuesday. We can do it first thing Tuesday, then hit our budget stuff, and I'm fine. I just need to talk this out a little bit.
we can put that on I don't have a problem putting that
But
on the
if-
agenda.
If
That
there's a
way we have-
problem and you want to do it tonight, that's fine. I totally respect that as well. I can go either way.
We're talking about,
So are you wanting to, since you're not challenging it and you want until Tuesday to think about it, is that the conditions and the accountability back to you on how the transition is, or not doing the termination and working together to get that done? You know, like their board is not going to go to Edmonds, so their school is, you know, we're behind, it's gonna cost more money to process their payroll, they're having to pay for
That's the type of
frontline.
thing that just, you know.
But they're not gonna do the Edmonds.
It
So
doesn't
we,
have-
we don't have the tools that we need to do the thing.
So
No,
I'm gonna
they're-
hand this back to them, that's gonna cost more. Again, I'm accountable to the taxpayers.
I'm just
This
telling you,
doesn't make
like,
sense to
I'm
me.
being honest with you. I mean.
No, I appreciate your honesty,
Yeah.
but again, I'm hearing this from the school board, trust me, and then I hear that. It
Well-
just, you know,
That's not what she said.
So I don't.
That
I don't know
hurts.
that-
She said if
I
she
don't-
keeps it, it's gonna cost more money.
Right.
Right.
I think you
Not
might have
them.
misunderstood that.
If she keeps it, it's gonna cost more
Yeah,
money.
right,
I thought the RDA, they're under RDA.
that's
They're
right.
RDA in Frontline, but they're not gonna change that either anyway. So,
it would cost us more money to utilize both systems.
Right.
right.
So we need to go to one system. Can that be part of this transition? Things like this.
But that's the decision that they've decided they don't wanna do.
They have to
That's
make
what I'm
that decision. And they have a rationale, you have a rationale to stay in RDA. Do you want to share that with us
They-
now?
Well,
Maybe I'm
Part
talking
of
about
that
things
is-
I don't know about, and that may be part of it too.
Well, it's
So
I mean,
it's a
I'll
lot
take
of
some blame
detail.
for
I mean,
that.
it's not costing us additional money to keep RDA.
Right.
And so, a part of the thought was, the initial thought was going to one system would help us move to, paying our employees 2 times a month, or every other week, or what have you. And so, but as we understand it, if we do change to Edmonds, we would have to pay, a great amount of money, one, and it would take up to 18 months for the process to be, the training process or whatever it is, running dual systems, before we actually get to that place of being able to move to, paying our employees 2 times a month. Hearing some of those things, our board became pretty adamant that they don't want to change it this time. And so,
But I thought going under one system helped with the budgeting process
I
and
mean,
transparency.
if you all are doing it, I guess it would probably help. If it stayed here with centralized services, then it probably would help. I mean, your team would probably say they'd like to be under the same system. But if you are not doing it, then I don't see that we would need to change to Edmonds in order to be more effective.
No, I'll disagree with that, only the fact that a lot of the problems that we've had are because what's getting sent over from the schools previously over to our treasurer's office, the treasurer trying to figure out how it should be coded, having to send it back to the schools, get that modified, and then having thousands of corrective journal entries. That's a problem that needs to be addressed. I'm not against giving you guys finances back, you're gonna have a big hoops to jump through. I would be the one to take it on, but it's not my decision, so.
No, I
But
understand.
these are the things
I
that aren't
understand.
gonna change, folks. This is my opinion.
It's
They're
not
not
gonna
gonna change.
But it's not gonna
And-
change in 2027 either.
Well,
So that's-
I'm for the long run. I'll play the long game. As long as it changes and gets better at some point.
I'd rather find out now.
My treasurer's department should not have to redo 1,000 entries. It doesn't make
No,
any sense.
I agree with that, and so what I would say to that is that we've done a little bit of research as well, and there are school divisions that uses RDA, and they don't have these problems. So could some of that have been user error at the time? Again, I don't know these
100%.
people, I'm not gonna talk bad about them, but I do know that there are places that use RDA very effectively, not these issues.
So safeguards, John, so for Penny's sake, I mean, she could say, I'm not accepting this over if you don't code it. If it's not coded, she could refuse it. And again,
Yeah, and that
if
would
they
teach
have
our people pretty quick to start
Alright.
coding it. They won't wanna work twice.
Maybe we need to develop policy
Well,
and
and
procedures
then-
then that
Well, and
we
then if
won't
you-
accept
and if
that.
you have
That's
a-
our
if
policy,
you have
done.
If you have a
That's
separate
fine.
account, that, those monies don't get released until this is all done the way that
Fair
we're
enough.
requiring.
Uh,
So
that's-
I-
that's the
where- that's where-
confidence.
That's where we put on the safeguards.
That's why I want to talk a few things out so I understand and then I'll be more
I'm
comfortable.
okay doing that to
That's
Tuesday,
very
so we
fair.
can kind of come up with those scenarios, just to understand.
We just saw this today, so it makes sense to wait until Tuesday. You saw it writing, it happened last night, yeah.
Yeah, we
Well,
talked, we
they
talked
took
about it.
action
Yeah,
on
right,
it.
Yeah, oh,
But
yeah, we knew
The
about,
board has talked about it quite a lot.
yeah, but I didn't know it was gonna be unanimous, and which it was, after you voted last night, so, yeah.
Yeah, we just talked HR.
Yeah, we've talked about it at the finance committee level for a while.
So we'll take this up on Tuesday.
All right.
Okay, look forward to hearing from you. Thank you. All right.
April, do you have anything else?
Sure don't.
Let's go into the budget now, look at that.
Send these people home.
So board members,
Should
if
have some relief here.
you're okay, we'll pick everything back up on Tuesday. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Somewhere on my hammer.